Soji, please, I'm begging you, don't lose. What's up, guys? I'm MANSLAYER, and here we are to do a breakdown / live reaction. Well, not live reaction. That's over on the Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or you can be a member for as little as $3 a month to get the live reaction. But here we are to do a breakdown and review of chapter 68. Backwards, 86 of Record of Ragnarok, which is known as Soji Okita versus Susanoo. Actually, I don't know what it's known as, because that was the one part of the chapter that didn't get translated, at least in my translation. But still, regardless, this chapter is it has some characterization, it has some background, it introduces a whole bunch of characters, or reintroduces, depending on where you stand with certain things. This chapter is some gas. And you know when there's gas, it's gonna take a minute for me to pass over, so we gotta hop right into it. Editing me, I summon you. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. But, you know, in honor of this being the battle between two of the strongest swordsmen, two of the wielders of the katana, since this is their battle, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And with that being the case, I'm excited to see how they have it on them and keep it on them at all times. Oh, I'm sorry. I feel like I've been asking around, because some of my friends do read Record of Ragnarok. No one seems to be as hyped for Soji as I am. I don't know. At least, how do y'all feel? Because I've seen mixed things. A lot of people are like, yes, Soji, finally. But in terms of my personal friend group who reads the manga as well, they're like, yeah, Soji's cool and all. This is another sword wielder. But they say another sword wielder, but the last sword wielder was Kin. And that's 2 matches ago at this point. I guess technically Buggy Boy wielded a sword, and I guess in certain ways, but not really. I don't even think Leonidas wielded a sword. So it's been 2 years. Well, not 2 years. Apollo vs. Leonidas was very, very short. So maybe not 2 years. And I guess Buggy Boy kind of counts as a sword. But still, it's been a hot minute since Kin. A hot minute since Kin. I think Kin happened in 2022. And even then, he only wielded a sword towards the end of his fight. In terms of full, from start to finish, sword to sword combatants, that's never happened. Typically, if one character is wielding a sword, another character is not wielding a sword. For Sasuke versus Poseidon, Poseidon had his, well, this is a sword, but Sasuke had his blade, and then he ended up going two-bladed at the end, but Poseidon was wielding a spear, a Biden. Well, no, Hades wielded the Biden. Poseidon wielded the trident. So Poseidon had his spear, his trident, and then the other blade wielder, Buddha, had a blade towards the end of his fight. But even then, for a majority of that fight, he didn't have that blade. And even if you want to count Misery Cleaver as a blade, that's kind of stretching it in terms of just a straight sword. In terms of just a sheer katana, it's only been Sasuke. Because I think even Kin, when Kin started to switch the blade mode into offense mode, that wasn't a katana. That was a completely different type of weapon. So a lot of people are just they're saying oh, this fight's going to be boring because it's going to be sword on sword. This is the first sword on sword battle we've had in Record of Ragnarok, which has me excited for that. Obviously, the main reason I'm excited for Soji. Bro's been here for years. Bro's been here since chapter 30. If not earlier. Dog. For reference, we're on chapter 86. He's been around since the 30s. Let's say he showed up in chapter 40. 46 chapters is darn near 4 years. And I know for a fact he showed up before that. We've been waiting for Soji to cook for 4 years. The adrenaline, the excitement that's pumping through my veins is exquisite. But of course, we have so much to talk about. So let me stop glazing Soji, because I'm going to start glazing Soji soon enough. Let's actually open up with Heimdall. I'm going to take a sip, because Heimdall's voice, it do be hurting a little bit. That was much more than a sip. But, let's see. Now, in preparation for the 10th... Wait. Hold on a minute. Allow me to get the voice in the proper register. Now, in preparation for the 10th fight of gods versus the humanity, the arena was completely renovated. Step 1. I really, really like this. I genuinely really, really like this. If there's one major complaint I've had with pretty much all the battles since Jack versus Hercules, all the arenas have been really, really boring. There's nice set dressing on some of them. Like, obviously in Tesla versus Buggy Boy, the Jamitsu cage was a really cool setting, and, you know, the isolated part of the ring, real cool. But still kind of bland overall. For Kin versus Hades, it was cool. But it was also just a big flat open arena. Kind of boring. For Shiva versus Raiden, once again, just a big open arena. Pretty boring. So I was definitely a tad bit worried on how we were going to do this fight, because presumably enough, it is just blade on blade action. So you don't need to do anything too crazy, in the similar vein to Heracles versus Jack the Ripper. So I was worried we were going to get another boring arena, but already this fight's opening up with gas, because we actually do have a completely different type of arena, which is fantastic. I love the environment work that the Record of Ragnarok mangaka, the two artists, do. Of course, I don't blame them for not wanting to do the environment work, because drawing background sucks. So I understand why a majority of the time it's just a blank white arena. But I do like the fact that we do get a whole full-scale proper battle area, which does also make sense in the grand context of the narrative itself, because this is our 10th fight. Like, we've been here for a minute now, so something this climactic would deserve the larger scale. Jack, of course, was an exception because his Volund was based around the properties of grabbing other things, and thusly he would need to use the city as a proper weapon. But I do like how in a battle that may have nothing to do with the city, it's being opened up that the environments can be used. This is a possibility that can transpire. We can see, there's a high possibility we're going to see these guys hopping off roofs, jumping between walls, fighting in and out of buildings. Like, that's the thing. Environments can elevate a fight. They can elevate a fight massively. Sure, sometimes they can restrict a fight. It's why you consistently see in series like Dragon Ball or Naruto or Bleach or anything, any of the big popular shonens, a lot of times battles will take place in just like wastelands or the leveled out areas or flattened spaces. It's because it's, one, easy to draw, and two, because you have to worry about it less for fight choreography. But if environments are built into a scene or a place or a piece of fiction very, very well, all a good environment can do is add to your battle scene. It can make it more creative. And the fact that we get a battle scene and battle scale this large for the fight to take place in, beautiful. I'm super excited to see how this goes, considering all the freedom and flexibility that comes with it, and the history that the two characters who are fighting are revealed to have with this location in particular, and the knowledge they'd have of it, and how to utilize it in certain ways, which is going to be so interesting to see. But of course, the arena is remodeled, but remodeled to what? What was it completely renovated to? Our main man, our juicy boy, our golly jolly Heimdall. Heimdall declares, taking into account the lessons learned after the 9th round, where a large number of spectators were injured. It's crazy. I didn't even realize that, because once again, I kind of glazed over. Like, I don't want to say Apollo versus Leonidas was boring, because it wasn't. But, like, it just wasn't my cup of tea. It's kind of like the same thing with Buggy Boy versus Tesla, where I was like, I mean, it's nice enough. But there wasn't, like, any, like, read now. So, like, I'm not going to say it was boring, but it didn't necessarily catch my attention. It was this that caught my attention. I was like, wait a minute. Boom, I had to slap back into Ragnarok. But that is a detail that I forgot. In Apollo vs. Leonidas, I believe it's when Apollo fires the light arrows, or something of the sort, when he fires himself as an arrow. He does do, like, crazy amounts of damage to the spectators. So I do like that all of them have been, like, raised up on a higher platform. So, like, hypothetically, if either of these characters just unsheathe their blade and swing, instead of the after effects of the repercussions of the wind force going through and, like, ripping people apart, it'll just tear into the wall, which makes a lot more sense. Notably, we don't know what happens if you perish in the afterlife. We don't know. At least for humans. Like, maybe, I'm not sure what happens to the gods either. Would they just perish? Would they just delete? Because, like, notably, characters who have lost so far, they just have their soul deleted. So, like, if you perish twice, what happens? Do you come back alive? But, like, I don't know. But with that being the case, we do get to see that due to the nature of round 9 and the style of fight this is, the arena is completely completed. It's completely completed. The arena is... I'm sorry, I don't know where the Heimdall voice went. The arena is completed with special specifications as requested by the fighter on the god's side. The stage for the 10th round is the perfect recreation of Kyoto, Japan, at the end of the Edo period. Now, I'm not sure what the overlap is between my JJK fans and my regular Ragnarok fans, but when I tell you, the moment I heard the Edo period, my brain screamed, Kashima? Kashima Hajime? Oh Lord, they got him. They got Kashima. Where's Kashima? But of course, I mean, we do get a Kashima in this chapter. It's just not Mr. Hajime, if you know what I'm saying. But with that being the case, interesting, right? Like, whoa, what an oddly specific period. Japan at the end of the Edo. I wonder what could have caused the individuals involved in this battle to fight there, especially the god requesting it. Notably, I do believe that it was Jack who requested the London arena, and then Hercules just went with it. But based on what's revealed here, it looks like the gods could have just made the fights more interesting if they wanted to. They could have summoned an arena at will, because it doesn't seem like Okita had any warning that this was going to happen. It's just Susanoo was like, hey, make it just like it was in the Edo period, or towards the end of it, 400 years ago. Or else. Like, he did end up doing it, and he just immediately got the approval. So, there, at least in my opinion, if we're doing this for this fight, there's no excuse for any other fight following this to not have interesting backgrounds. At least I don't think so. I think every single fight, and this may be a mistake of saying the standard this high, but I think every single fight kind of needs to have some more oomph, some more pizzazz, not just in the fighters, but in the arenas themselves. Like, in how these characters are going to overlap and fight each other. I think if we get that more, and some of them are going to be necessary. Like, I believe Simo Haya is a sniper, very specifically. So they do need cover and stuff like that. We're not going to just see them running around in an open area. So they're going to need it. Rasputin is a notorious trickster and beguiler, so it's most likely he's going to do something similar to Jack with the manipulation of the environment. And Nostradamus also seems to just be a terrible human being. So who knows what they could request. So there are definitely, out of our 3 remaining combatants after Soji, there are definitely reasons for all of our human fighters, at least, to want to, let's just say, shake up the arena a little bit. So I'm hoping this is a sign of good things to come. Because once again, it's my one tiny complaint. Just a universal complaint about every single fight, except for Heracles versus Jack. The environments are kind of just there to environment. They're kind of just there to do things. But I think it would be interesting if they became more built into the characters and the world that the characters came from. All that good stuff. That, in my opinion, is how you elevate it higher in comparison to where it was before. And I'm happy that they did decide to do that. Even though I understand why they wouldn't traditionally. Drawing backgrounds is a lot of work. Like I'll be completely. It's just it's annoying to do, especially good backgrounds. Like, it is stupid hard to do. Like, a black screen's a black screen, a white screen's a white screen, a white screen with a couple of cracks on it is a white screen with a couple of cracks on it. Still good stuff, but like, man, full panels of like, I can't imagine the nightmare this is going to be to draw. But with that being the case, we see Heimdall say, well, actually, no, not Heimdall. Other gods are wondering, huh? That was a request from a god? Why the heck is it on the human side stage? That's a good question. Like, wait, what you mean? What you mean? A certain deity requested this. But of course, there's only one answer. Who would allow this? Who would be intrigued with this? Who would abide by it? We have one answer, as Heimdall begins to declare. It's sippy time? We love sippy time. But we see Heimdall says, the gods have 4 wins. Oh, no, I keep reading that wrong. Have 5 wins and 4 losses. The countdown to the extinction of humanity is only at 2. Humanity is literally at the edge of a cliff right now. And we need to push them off this cliff. So, this brings up an interesting point in why I think Soji is almost destined to win, or he essentially has to for the plot to progress in an interesting way, unless we just get a bad ending. And you may be wondering, well, Pencilman, what do you mean? So essentially, if we expect humanity to win Record of Ragnarok, but Soji loses this fight, they have to go 3 for 3. Back to back to back to back. So back to back to back to back. That's 4. But like 3 extra... How do I put this? How do I put this in a way that's understandable and not sound absolutely insane? So essentially, we lose one more, we have to win everything. That would suck the tension out of everything. And there would be no surprises if we think humanity's going to make it. But if we don't think humanity's going to make it, they could just lose. They could lose here, win the next one, and then lose again, and then lose again. Well, no. It's only one more after this. That's the thing. It's the main reason why I don't see Soji losing. And there's also some character and narrative stuff that goes into that, but, like, that's different. That's completely different. So, yeah, it's kind of the 50-50, right? Because if Soji loses, and we expect humanity to win, humanity needs to get 3 straight dubs back to back to back. It kind of throws out all tension for Anubis. Whoa, I'm sorry. All tension for Odin and all tension for Loki. Those are our 3 remaining, as in, like, the ones that are scheduled to fight, but those are our 3 remaining deities. We lose them, and that's it. The god side is done. But, hypothetically, if Soji were to win this one, then the next ones are still up in the air. Of course, there are definitely weights going towards Odin and weights going towards Loki, considering those characters have been massively important, have been around even longer than Soji has been in the narrative. So, of course, they have heavily weighted favor towards them. But, even still, I think there is definitely a more interesting narrative with Soji winning this one. Of course, that comes at the sacrifice of Susanoo, though, and based on what we get from Susanoo in this chapter as a character, I would like to see more of him. But considering he's only just recently been injured, well, I say recently, it's been like 2 months, but still, considering he's just recently been introduced for this fight, nothing before that, not a mention of any family, none any of the Japanese pantheon being mentioned, and the remainder of the cast, or the remainder of at least the godly cast, having side plots that have nothing to do with Japan's deities or line of deities, I think sacking him is okay. But that's me being extremely biased and looking at this series a certain way. There's definitely a high likelihood that we don't even get to the final round. Like, maybe round 13 just won't happen. Maybe there won't be a final fight with Nostradamus against Odin or something of the sort. Maybe that just straight up won't happen. There's that possibility too, due to the constant brewing tension between the sides and even amongst the gods themselves. Remember, last chapter, chapter 8.5, ended off with Odin, or no, it ended off with the reveal of RK, I forget the name, but the primordial deity. That is something that's most likely going to happen. And plus whatever Odin has planned, and whatever Loki has planned, and whatever Buggy Boy has planned. Like, there's so many different things that can still happen that prevent us, like, just boring through the rest of the rounds. And it makes me believe that the story isn't going to end when the Record of Ragnarok itself ends, when we end the battle streak. I don't think we're immediately cooked, done, we're never going to see it again, and that's the end of it. I don't think that's the end of the manga, but at the same time, if we are going to get through all 13 rounds, I feel like Soji has to win just because we're so close to humanity getting got. Of course, there's no higher stakes than humanity being one away and each human having to clutch up until the final round, and essentially this gives us 2 straight dubs, confirmed straight dubs for humanity, but at the same time, I think that would be less boring than if Soji won. But of course, I'm biased. But we do get to see that ultimately, the one who's come to push humanity off the cliff is the greatest sword deity in the heavens, descended here. And I'll admit, it took a second, even in the live reaction. We can check it over on Patreon for as low as $1 a month to become a member, for as low as $3 a month to go peep. It's taken its time to grow on me, but I'm slowly getting more used to it and more accustomed to it. I think especially the more exposure I get to it and the more I look at it, the softer I'll grow on it. I'm still not the biggest fan of Susanoo's design. I think he, not necessarily over-designed. I wouldn't say he suffers from over-design syndrome. In fact, I do like how heavily designed a lot of the cast and crew of Record of Ragnarok is. But, like, heck, even characters who are simply designed, like your Zeuses or your Shivas, who are kind of just wearing pants, and in Zeus's case, like a toga? Like, not even a toga, like a sash and then, like, a skirt. Like, in terms of symbol design, there's still extra details in those designs. At first, I was leaning towards Susanoo being a bit over-designed, but I think the more and more I see it, the more and more I like it. And of course, it's the introduction of Susanoo, the greatest sword god in the heavens. And we see him walk forward. And I love this art style switch. I'm not sure which of the two mangaka does this, because notably there are consistent times when the art style will just switch up, but I do love this style, which is very similar to the depictions of a lot of Japanese mythology, with these like more flowing lines and the waves and the oceans and the kind of the thicker ink and the thicker line art that's done here. I love it. I don't know which of the two artists does it, but regardless, they did a fantastic job. And we get backstory on Susanoo. In ancient times, well, I don't want to give, see, I do like giving Heimdall kind of a serious announcer voice, but like announcer is in like Dragon Ball announcer, like Cell Games announcer, especially like the voice for Heimdall is heavily based on Jimmy Firecracker from TFS's Cell Games run. That is very heavily based on, that's where my Heimdall voice mainly comes from. So I don't want to give him just the basic deep narrator voice, so I'm gonna try and stick to that. In ancient times, this god struck down the 8-headed serpent Yamata no Orochi with his Totsuka no Tsurugi, the sword of the 10 hand breaths. And let me see something. In fact, let me take a look. It's a book, Reading Rainbow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, wait, actually, no. Let me do this. I think I maybe miscounted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Still not 10. I wonder what that means. Sword of the 10 hand breaths. Because, like, I can kind of see it as in the sense of this is a proper, well, I'm assuming this is a proper katana. So it takes both of my hands to wield it fully. Of course, I could just wield it like this, but this is not effective. I believe you're supposed to wield a katana with 2 hands. I have no formal katana training. I just think katanas are cool. And the reason I point this out is because there is a difference. This is a one-handed blade. Like, I would have to wield it like this to put 2 hands on it. So in terms of 10-hand breaths, I'm assuming this has to do with, like, how many fingers you need, but 10 fingers. It's not 10 finger breath, it's 10 hand breaths. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but still, sounds cool. With Totsuka no Tsurugi, the sword of the 10 hand breaths. And, you know, your boy, I'm sorry, your boy's a Naruto fan first. So, you know, when I hear Susanoo, Totsuka, Itachi, so that's where my brain's immediately leaping to. However, we see that this was the invention. Kenjutsu, that means swordsmanship. At the moment, I love how out of all the things that get translated, the one thing is Kenjutsu. Kenjutsu is swordsmanship. That's what Heimdall goes out of his way to translate for everybody. Kenjutsu, that means swordsmanship, at that moment, was born into the world. So, Susanoo is the originator of all swords. It's interesting that, very specifically, it's not Japanese swordsmanship. He is just described as the god of swords, the god of blades, which means that it's very likely we just aren't going to see. I mean, Loki uses blades, but even then they aren't swords. So yeah, I think, because who's left? Anubis? I don't think Anubis is going to whip out a sword. I'm not sure what Anubis's weapon is in traditional Egyptian mythology. It's been years since I brushed up on that. But I think Susanoo's going to be our only start to finish sword wielder deity. Out of all of them. Because going through the roster, Thor was a hammer wielder, Zeus fought barehanded, Poseidon fought with his spear, his trident, then Hercules fought with his club and his main transformations. That's round 4. Then Shiva fought with his fists. Then Apollo fought with a variety of things, but mainly the gauntlets, and then using himself as an arrow, and slash a bow and arrow. Then, and also boxing, obviously. Then Buggy Boy kind of had one, like, the vibrating of his staff essentially made it the ultimate blade. That's what it was called. It was the spear or the weapon that could pierce any defenses. So it was kind of sword-esque, but it wasn't really a sword. And then that's Buggy Boy. Who am I missing? I've covered Apollo. I've covered Buggy Boy. There have been 9 rounds at this point. I'm missing 2 people. Who am I missing? Jimmy Neutron. Please, brain blast your way to infinity. Oh, the reason I'm mixing it up is because Hojun and Buddha, once again, they had moments of sword wielding and sword adjacent weapons, but no, it feels like Susanoo is the only god that's explicitly wielding blades, which does give his title of sword god a lot more precedence. It does kind of hype him up and of himself, because he's the only person, or the only god at least, that's coming in specifically I got one thing for you. I got one thing, and that's a blade. So I do like that. I do like how he's being highlighted as the not just the creator of swordsmanship, but the one god who seems to be fully allowed to wield a sword from start to finish. And we see that in response to the birth of swordsmanship, another sword just appeared. And then a sword was born from Orochi's tail. I know this one too, but I always forget. Like, I don't know. Does this one have a reference in Naruto? I genuinely forget. But, and a legendary sacred treasure. Hame no Murakumo no Sorugi, the heavenly sword of the gathering clouds. I know grass cutter, but that's something completely different. I think that's Kin's blade. But with that being the case, we see with this sword in his hand. I love how he draws it too, just straight from the tail of Yamata no Orochi. But we see him draw it from the dragon, which is very interesting. I wonder, since we're getting so much backstory for him here, I wonder what his backstory part is going to be. I'm very interested because notably, even I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure Apollo versus Leonidas is the shortest fight in the series. I believe it's only 8 chapters, if that. Like introductions included. Like it's a very, very short fight. It happens in a blink. But with that being the case, I do think, unless I'm mistaken, they had backstories included. But we're covering the birth of Kenjutsu. We're covering that in his intro here. So are we going to get a flashback? Is it going to be a recontextualization thing, kind of like what happened with Shiva? Because Shiva was introduced as like the pinnacle, the peak, the top of India. But then his backstory is recontextualizing that with the introduction of his best friend and stuff like that, and the long journey that went there. So I wonder if that's what we're going to get here. I know Susanoo's very, very famous. He has numerous different stories of how amazing he was as a deity and his many different feats. Yamata no Orochi is not the main thing, and even him creating swordsmanship or Kenjutsu is not the main thing. But I'm interested to see what his backstory is going to be in particular. How we're going to dive into that. And I'm also interested for Soji, because Soji has his own manga. But then again, he's not the main character of that manga. Kashimo is. A Kashimo we're going to get to soon enough. So I'm interested. I'm super interested to see these characters' backstories, which is something that, of course, I do love in the fights. I made a whole ranking, which is super outdated, which I'm going to redo. There's so many old Record Ragnarok videos I'm excited to redo with my new style and do more updated drawings. And I think I have gotten better with my artistic ability. I may do them digitally, I may do them physically. It all depends on my mood. But with that being the case, I did do a ranking of the backstories. They are one of my favorite aspects of Record Ragnarok, despite me not talking about them too much. So I'm very, very excited to see the backstories here, considering they could go crazy. They could go crazy, whether it be in recontextualization of this moment or other moments from Susanoo, or even like a multifaceted journey of Susanoo across time, in a similar vein to Hercules with the 9 labors, and even, once again, now I think about it, Shiva with his journey through India. Like, there are definitely ways that Susanoo's long and storied history could be integrated into maybe like a 2 or 3 chapter backstory. I'm fine with this fight being long, by the way. It can be a year and a half. It can be like 18 chapters. I would not mind. Because once again, this is presumably our final bout of swordsmanship. I'm not sure what weapon Rasputin's going to wield or Anubis, but I don't think Kintoki's going to wield a blade. And I don't think Nostradamus is going to wield a blade. And obviously, I don't think we've seen Odin and Loki's weapon. So if this is our final show out, if this is the final time the Record of Ragnarok mangaka or the artists are getting to show out with 2 characters who wield blades, let it be as long as possible. Get creative. That's once again the beauty of the environment that they've chosen to have for this fight. And we see, to continue the story, he was furious like a storm, swift like lightning. He cut down the evil gods of Takamaharaga. I'm sorry, I'm going to be struggling so much with the names. It's going to be painful. So, please excuse me as I fight for my life against some of these names. He cut down the evil gods of Takamahagara, the high plane of heaven. And I do love how violent he looks. He's like a wraith, ironically enough. And this isn't even reflected in his current design, but I guess this is meant to just be his flowing locks of hair. But seeing him swing through in this massive wave of darkness surrounding him is really, really cool. And, you know, the swift like lightning, as Susanoo also is the god of storms. So I do like the comparison. He was furious like a storm, swift like lightning. Though admittedly, I think this is another case where we're going to run into the issue where the gods just don't get to use mystic powers. Presumably, as much as I do want a pure straight swordsman fight, I'm excited to see that. If I had one other major complaint with Record of Ragnarok, except the gods barely feel godly in the sense that they don't use any sort of like extracurricular powers. The biggest one where this comes into is Hades. Like, to this day, I know people love Hades as a character. Heck, I love Hades as a character, but his fighting style is so boring. For a god of the underworld, super boring. Buggy Boy was interesting. The manipulation of sound and the way that tied into the beating wings of, because, you know, he's the Lord of the Flies and stuff like that. That's a very interesting way to play off of it. But also, it still felt a little bit constricted. It feels like Tesla was pulling out more nonsense stuff. But of course, only Sorcerer in history makes sense why you let Tesla pull out more. What feels like pulling out more. When realistically, it was just fancy ways to punch and fancy ways to dodge. But, like, Poseidon was super underwhelming with his abilities. Zeus didn't have a lick of lightning. But, of course, Thor had lightning. But even then, Thor's lightning was kind of just, like, an accent. It wasn't actually a major part of the battle. So, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see Susanoo start, like, calling down storms. Like, it'd be cool to see him, like, swing his blade and there's a lightning strike. Like, it could be cool. But just based on how he's describing his backstory and how Ragnarok's gone so far, I think we are going to have a straight swordsmanship battle, which will still be cool. But it's not as cool as it could be. Like, if you're going to introduce gods, get crazy with them. But let's see. He is a sword god, feared as the wild god, and now is his time to live up for his reputation. I am the origin of Kenjutsu, the strongest GODSLAYER. Yo. Heimdall. Bro knows how to hype me up, dog. Bro knows verbatim how to drop some fat, juicy bars. As he says, I am the origin of Kenjutsu, the strongest GODSLAYER. I think the main reason, I'm going to leap into this because it's actually one of the clearer shots we get of Susanoo. Let me see. Actually, no, I'll save it for then. No. Is it See, I say Susanoo based on how it's commonly pronounced in Naruto. But even then, is it Susanoo? Like Susanoo? I'm not sure. Because there is that extra O in the end. And it's specifically an apostrophe O. It's kind of, it's not like Susanoo. Like, notably, cows don't go mo, they go moo. Because 2 O's. So, is it Susanoo or nu? In the same way that a cow goes moo? Or is it Susanoo? Or is it Susanoo? I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up. I'll probably look that up before next review, or before I do my next discussion video, because we already have his design, so I may do a Gon design ranking video, at least so far, because I would like to have the early few years old 5 fights in, then the current middle era with 4 fights left, and then a final era where I finally redo everything once Ragnarok's actually over, at least nearing completion. So Susanoo Susanoo no Mikoto, Japan. So here's my thing. To mention why I'm not fully rocking with his design. It feels very, very, I don't even want to say bottom. It's over-designed yet simple. And not in a balanced way. It's kind of the same issue that I had with Kin. Like, you can go back when I was reviewing Kin versus Hades, and you can even see me mention my design opinions and appeals and tastes have definitely shifted from here or there a little bit. They've gone in different directions, don't get me wrong. But what I will say here is that the one issue I had with Kin, I loved his design, but his pants were so plain. It was like a shock of white in comparison to the beauty that his admittedly over-designed halter top was. And Susanoo kind of has that same issue. The chest in itself, the torso, like the main part of the body, simple, clean, cut, wonderful. It's these big old pauldrons he's got though, and the elaborate design only on the lower part of his hip guards and on the end of his, I forget what that's called, the tassel. Like, it feels like there's design concentrated here, which makes his shoulders look way too pronounced and his head look way too small. Like, even in this image right here, his head just looks tiny. And I see his hair is up, which is most likely why he doesn't have that same flowing storm, like thunderstorm of black hair behind him. But I think if you were to do that, and maybe that's the point, maybe his hair will come down, or maybe it will expand when he starts fighting, I think that would balance out the design a whole lot more, because then at least it would make his head feel larger or more of a focal point, because right now it just feels so compressed. It feels so tiny for what it is, especially in comparison to the massive soldier pauldrons and the massive hip pauldrons. I'm gonna call them pauldrons, I don't know what they're called. It's that. It's a little bit, it's over-designed in some areas, yet under-designed in some areas, and the balance isn't all there. It's probably my least favorite out of the gods that I've had to fight so far design. Because I love Thor's design. Fantastic overall. I love Zeus's design. I love Shiva's design. I love Poseidon's design. I love Hades' design. I even like Hajun's design, / Zero's design. Zero Fuku's design. I think that's a really cool design too. I love Buddha's design. Like, all the gods who've been able to fight so far, they've all had just bangers on bangers on bangers on bangers. The only time I've had like a weird critique, even Buggy Boy had a real cool design. Like, I think the only ones I've had genuine critiques for design-wise is the humans, and it's only Ken with that one thing. Every other human is perfectly designed too. So that's why Susanoo no Mikoto is standing out to me so much, because it's like, you're known for peak, and this is still peak. This is still fantastic character design, and I'm assuming the pauldrons and stuff are referenced. Let me go back to the original. Yeah, like these big guards on him seem to be a part of him in his original depiction, which is carried over here. So there's just a basic design detail of Susanoo from the mythology. But I don't know, I feel like it could have been balanced better. But it can obviously easily be rebalanced better. A lot of characters in Ragnarok actually do look better, not only with time, when the mangaka or either the artists get more time to practice drawing them and add their own little design details over time. Like, look at early series Sasuke, look at current Sasuke. When time progresses, they just get bad. Look at Chapter 1 Zeus versus current Zeus in terms of his design. It does change. So I'm assuming Susanoo, he will definitely grow on me more and more. And I do actually like the shock of white hair against the majority black hair. That's a nice little detail. But of course, we see that Susanoo is looking around. He's like, Though, admittedly, this is kind of funny. Honestly, if I was doing this, I would have been lazy. You can tell. I don't want to say it was two different mangaka or the two different artists, but these images, like, even while flipped, they do not look the same at all. Like, his neck looks twice as thick as it does here. His face is a lot broader in this one than this one. Like, the balance is complete. It's completely on. Honestly, this is going to sound lazy. And it is lazy. So don't know that I say this. Do not do as I do. I would have literally just taken one of these images. Either one is fine. Either one's fine. Though admittedly, I feel like this one lines up more with this one right here. These two match each other more than this one matches this one. And even this one on the same page. I'd say this one matches more. I would have just taken the same image. Like, hypothetically, like in Procreate, where I do a lot of my digital art. All of my digital art, really. Duplicate the layer, where the completed drawing. Flip it. Place it in the other panel. To have him looking both ways. That's the cheater in me, to avoid such like drastic thing. Because that's the thing, they're on the same screen, like they are in the same panel. That's why it's so noticeable to me. It's noticeable to me. The two artists, and then who knows? Once again, this may have been the same artist. The two artists get away with a lot because they don't draw on the same pages. Typically, one page will be entirely one artist. You can kind of tell. And whenever they do merge, that's when you notice. That's when you notice there's like genuine differences. But this is a case where I feel like this may be the two different artists doing one thing. Once again, I don't know how the work is split. And I don't even know if I can identify the two artists individually. I typically just go with the idea that one artist is slightly better than the other, even though both are peak, like some of the greatest artists of our generation. I don't even know their names. I need to learn their names before the next chapter. The only ones who surpass Record of Ragnarok is Murata. And he's not human. Murata's not human, so he doesn't count. But that's it. The Record of Ragnarok mangaka, they're both peak. Whenever I critique, no, I'm trash. Could never be a mangaka. Will never be a mangaka. Could never be to the level of artists that these guys are. I do just want to point out certain things about their design details and what I like and what I don't like. That's just a me thing, though. Welcome to That Guy with a Pencil. Or if there's one thing I can do, it's yap. But, let's see. This is the Bakumatsu. It's that straight, good, bubblicious gas. He does take a hard whiff of it. And we see that he is hyped, and I do like that. And once again, the design, the reason that I've already softened on the design is because the more and more panels I get of him, the more and more I do like it. But we do get to see that we've covered the strongest God Slayer in history. But of course, this is no simple battle of gods. We are not watching Goku versus Beerus. And now, mankind's challenger to the strongest God Slayer in the heavens. We see Susanoo grin at it. He's ready. Is this man? Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. Oh, look at him. So cool. Oh, he's so cool. Oh, I love him. I love him. He's my boy. Okay. Pencil Man, let's get this right. There was an era in Japanese history when the men were intense and were overflowing with fighting spirit. Swords and ideas clashed, and many lives were lost on that place. It was Kyoto at the end of the Edo period. In this city, where countless swordsmen and masters were born, the peak of Kenjutsu was reached with the art of manslaying. Who is the strongest manslayer of this era? Would it be him who was Japan's #1 small sword and created the many unruly ronin, Sasaki Tadayashi Daburo, from the Miwanawa region? Would it be he who was called the strongest tyrant of the end of the Edo period, who mastered the Shinto Munin Ryu, the founder and leader of the Shinsengumi, the Director General, Seirazawa Kamo? No. When would it be the 4 manslayers of Bakamatsu, who turned said era with their slaying blades, Ozada Izo, Tanaka Shinbei, Kawakami Gensai, and Nakamura Hajiro? No. This small man, dressed in a light blue checkered hayori, was feared by warriors as a demon. The sword that dyed Kyoto and Osaka in fear in the bloodbath during the Bakamatsu era. You see, his true identity is unknown. Is he a human? Is he a demon? History's strongest manslayer. He is called the captain of the first unit of the Shinsengumi, Okita Soji. But a bust! Yes, sir! Yes, sir! Yes, sir! Ladies and gentlemen, it's my goat. It is straight up my goat. Now, don't get me wrong. In terms of an overall character, I still would have to say Sasuke's probably my favorite. Like, that opinion hasn't changed. Like, I know a lot of people definitely now have Tesla as their favorite. I know a lot of people, well, Leonidas' reaction from his design alone has had people mix. So I haven't heard much talk about Leonidas, but I know Tesla is a very big fan favorite right now. I know people still love Adam. Of course, people still love Adam. If you don't like Adam, that's fine. But, like, are you human? No, I'm kidding. But I think in terms of the overall favorite, Sasuke is, once again, he has the benefit of winning his fight and thusly having further characterization beyond his fight and being a character who we consistently cut to for reactions from humanity. It's really him and Jack. But as a byproduct, Okita Soji has a lot of that. Isami Kondo has a lot of that. And of course, they have my favorite moment in the entire series when they're about to get jumped by the 7 lucky gods alongside Loki, and we get that whole interaction there. So, definitely, Sasuke, still my favorite, right? But man, for some reason, it's kind of like he's just cool. He's cool. He's very well designed. He's perfectly designed, in my opinion. I don't know. He's wonderfully designed. And I've looked up what Okita Soji looked like. There are pictures of him. I believe these are like verbatim pictures of Okita Soji. Once again, the Edo period is, I believe, only 400 years ago. I say only 400 years ago, but within the grand scheme of humanity, 400 years ago is a blink. Heck, human history is a blink of, like, the Earth's lifespan. So, like, it's relatively short. So I do believe there are, like, pictures of Okita Soji, or at least I've looked them up, and he looked nothing like this. Like, the design is completely different. But the way he's drawn from the manga, from what his personality has been, to his character interactions, to his character dynamics, to the hints of his history, to my bias from him reading his manga, like, there's so many things that I love about Okita Soji, and I love how he gets this hype, like how he gets compared to so many other people. And once again, I do love how he's portrayed here, right? Like, the beauty of Okita is that despite a seemingly very lighthearted and playful personality, his small stature and all that, he has this aura and this presence of just malice about him. Like, it's clear by how he's portrayed that this man is the greatest manslayer in all of history. From how he walks up, consumed in darkness, only illuminated by a slight aura of light. The blade, the katana, lit up here, gripped by a man fighting for his fate. And he's compared and stated superior to so many different people. The number one small sword, the master and creator of Shinto Moon and Ryo, the founder and leader of the Shinsengumi, a squad he ended up working for, 4 separate manslayers of great renown. All of them simply fall short to the monster, to the beast, to the demon that is Okita Soji, bro. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. And, you know, I love my boy getting all this hype right before his fight. And, you know, in the same way that I kind of got on Susanoo-Oh's design for how it is, I think I may just innately call him Susanoo now, even though it doesn't really make sense. Because I said Susanoo for so long. Who knows? It may bleed into other things. But in the way that I got on Susanoo-Oh's design for having like weirdly over-designed parts and imbalance in his design naturally, which may be a holdover from his original depictions in mythology, or at least from what I know of him, Soji, he's like, I'm not going to say he's Record of Ragnarok's design perfected, but it's the complexity in simplicity. I think that's why I love Soji's design so much. It is, in aspect, pretty basic. I mean, it has layers, but it is the cloak, the hayori, the checkered scarf, the long black hair, tied up in a top knot, and that's it. There's very little intricate design. Like, the design is the checkerboard and the white ends of the hayori. That's about it. And his blade design, I guess, even the blade design is relatively simple. It's basically just this. Down to the blade itself. There are no special intricate designs or anything like that. And all that's cool. But due to the ability of the Record of Ragnarok mangaka, I keep saying mangaka because I'm so used to mangaka being just an overall summation, but the Record of Ragnarok manga artists, they're able to take that simplicity of that design, and it's so many extra details, from the folds in the clothes, to the billowing of the pants, to the detail in the shoes, to the detail on the blade itself, to the way that the cape not beckles, and it's not a cape, the way the scarf blows and goes in the wind, all of that elevates what would innately be a relatively simple design to something peak. And that's Soji Okita. Streamlined simplicity, add complexity in simplicity. I think that's the easiest way to put it. It's why I love Zeus's design so much, and Adam's design so much. They're just men. They're just 2 burly, buff men smacking each other in the face with their fists, and exclusively their fists. That's all they are. But the details that are put into their musculature, into the little bit of clothing that they do have, it works. And Soji benefits from that a whole lot. Another reason why I need Bro to win. But we see they are posted up. But as Soji holds his blade, he's like, I miss this town a lot. Even the juice still smells the same. Like, that, I do love that detail. That they recreated the end of the Edo period, which was known for its consistent manslaying so much that Soji just breathing in the air is like, I can smell all the lives lost here. It's unironically metal. It's kind of like, you can see the look on his face. It's very clearly supposed to be a sweet, reminiscent moment of Soji remembering what his hometown was like. Or at least, I forget if it's his hometown or like the town he guarded was. He remembers that. It's sweet in most contexts, but he doesn't say, oh, the smell of the bakery, or the ground, the smell of the earth, or the building. No, the smell of the blood that was spilled. That smells the same. That's metal. And it goes to show that he's not just the greatest manslayer for show. No, he was into it. He was deep into it. And we see as Susanoo merely grins. He's like, yeah, dude, don't this smell wonderful? We had to take the same people and spill them here again, Soji. For us, Soji. Nah, but we see, Heimdall continues, the strongest manslayer in history, and heaven's strongest godslayer. Between these two, who is stronger? Please let it be Soji. Out of all the fights so far, I've needed it to be Soji. more than anybody else. Please, please. But we see, with a slam of the bell, fight! And Soji, he draws his blade back. He's clearly about to get active. He's about to get in there. But notably, Susanoo doesn't even look at him. After the fight is declared and the bell is rung, he's like, oh, wait, something else. And we see Soji pause, but Susanoo asks, so, you are Okita Soji then, right? Obviously. Now you see Okita even get caught off guard by this. He has a whole sweat drop. He's like, huh? I mean, yeah, the little god guy did just say my name, so I would, in fact, be Okita Soji. And we see that he's like, oh yeah, for real, I got that. So that's store. That's, Ikedaya, right? And Soji's like, oh, yeah, true, you're right. And we see that Susanoo suddenly gets hyped as he goes, I see, this is Ikedaya. And I do love how Soji's so caught off guard. But one, multiple details I like in this little interaction. One, Soji is calm enough. He's not absolutely consumed by slaughterlust that he doesn't answer Susanoo's question, nor does he attack him while he's very clearly off guard. But I love how he stays in stance. Like, I'm not sure how he's holding it, but he stays in stance. He's ready to fight, but he is still answering the question. But also, I like how the moment Susanoo seems to get any sort of active, Soji immediately leaves. Like, he's ready. He's tensed and prepared for battle. But also, in a subtle way, this is a flex by Susanoo, right? Like, this is a battle to determine the fate of humanity and determine whether or not he himself shall live or be erased from existence, as far as he knows. But what does he care about? Fanboy. As we see, he mentions, this is where the Shinsengumi, with only 4 men, cut their way to victory against over 20 members of the Chosu and Tosa loyalist samurai, the one and only Ikedaya. Oh, I can see the sword marks on the pillars. The aftermath of the Ikedaya incident has been faithfully recreated. Which is interesting. Did they have to, like, take katanas and just slash? When we see that Sasaki's like, not Sasaki, Soji's like, you really know a lot about this, don't you? And we see Susanoo say, sure I do. The Bakumatsu period was my one and only dreamland. For you see... Oh, well, no. We see Soji ask, wait, this place is somewhat dear to you? Hey, yeah, I love how he's, like, so shocked. Like, this is actually where Soji lived and protected and worked. But he's like, why do you care? But Susanoo gives a really nice reason that I think is really, really neat. Yeah. The sword I created was cultivated by mankind over a long period of history. And in this Bakumatsu period, they mastered the art of manslaying. That's why I've been waiting for so long. It was for you. You, the strongest manslayer of the Bakumatsu period, Okita Soji. This time, I will fight you. So, I love that detail. I really do. That Susanoo, the originator, got to watch over decades, centuries, watch the blade that he forged, once again in this world, the blade that he forged, presumably the katana or some variation of it, in swordsmanship in general, kenjutsu as a whole, he got to witness it evolve and grow and develop and change, and he got to see it peak in the Bakumatsu period. So of course, it's like watching your own son, in a way. Like, don't have kids. Is that a good comparison? I'm not sure. But essentially just watching someone improve what you created and refine the craft and go farther beyond than what you ever expected from them. Of course he's excited to finally see it in action. And of course, when he's faced with the pinnacle of it, he's super excited. Because who wouldn't be? I fully understand Susanoo there, and I understand his fanboyism and why he wanted it here. He wanted to see the peak of the Bakumatsu period, the peak of manslaying, and its peak area. No excuses, no prime. Soji with a healthy body and the proper area to fight in against him, the creator of Kenjutsu. Real good stuff. Then we see that Soji's like, this is not what I was expecting from the god of swords. Even he's a little bit thrown off by the fact that Sasaki's so just, not necessarily chill, but like invested in his own creation. Even Susanoo's like, oh, sorry, am I not meeting your expectations? And then we get the reference to all these different characters. Soji! Wake the heck up! Give me a break. This guy gets distracted so easily. Nagakura, please stop your loud and stupid voice. It is embarrassing the squad. You didn't change at all. It's the same Shinpachi who's always so stupidly serious. Come again? Hajime, you little nonsense. You want to fight? Bring it on. But of course, I don't. He's like, oh, you idiots, cut that out. Once again, I do wish I had kept up with the manga. I need to double check if it's like still even being published or being translated at all, because it's been a while. There's one manga I was reading for the longest time that just stopped getting translated for like 5 years. It's now completely translated. I did a little happy jig when I found that out and read the entire thing again. But I need to check on this manga too. But these are the characters from the manga. In fact, this is the main character from Soji's manga. And we see they ask, really? You're going to punch me? Even in the afterlife? And Isami is like, I don't care where it is. And of course, the rest of the crowd is like, who the heck are these people? And Soji can't help but smile as he declares, I don't know how he heard them, because they're super high up right now. But he says, they are the same noisy fellas as always. Well, we may just be responding to his friend yelling. As we see the whole casting crew. Are you guys ready? We, the Shinsengumi, will also go as Soji. So, of course, they're here to hype that boy up. This probably would hit different. I only recognize Hajime, the main character of the manga, and of course Isami Kondo. The rest of these characters, I don't remember. Once again, it's been like 2 years since I read it. But we see all these different characters. Finally. But is Soji's body fit to fight him? Of course, I'll get into it in a second. Fear not. Besides, take a look at his face. And we see all the different members acknowledge in their own way. Through silence, through laughter, through conversation and affirmation, we see all of them realize that Soji's making quite a face right now. And Isami admits that we should know that already. At times like this, Soji's stronger than anyone else. Soji strongest in the verse? Huh? Transcend Zeus? I'm kidding. But a healthy body, the nostalgic air, and the strongest opponent. Finally, I can fight to death with all my heart. Of course, Soji's finally excited. I love Susanoo's grin here. He's like, yeah, come on, kid, let's do it. And the main reason I love this so much is that Soji is very similar to a lot of other characters. Or not necessarily. He wasn't able to go out on his own terms. He wasn't able to go out in an epic battle. He wasn't able to go out in any of those ways. He died to sickness. His body simply betrayed him, and all that skill, all that power, all that talent honed within that flesh wasn't able to be used to end his life in a way he was satisfied with. He died very, very unsatisfied due to the nature of what happened to him. So he's finally being given a battle where he can actually enjoy it fully, where he can properly go head to head and go all out with an opponent who's worthy of him, which has me really, really excited for Broski. I'm very excited to see him pop off and get the battle of his dreams. Though I do hope he wins. Please, don't die, Soji. I'm begging you. But with that being the case, that is the end of the chapter. Of course, I'll even draw it with this one, though I've drawn a whole bunch. If you couldn't tell, the chapter's worthy. Of course, it's mainly just, them introducing the characters, giving their backstory, a little hint of it, plus hyping them up. But the reintroduction of Soji's cast, plus the cool reference to Susanoo's lore and the mythology of him creating Kenjutsu, plus the character interactions, plus the characterization of Susanoo, and the further characterization of Soji and his crew and the reintroduction of them, all of this super duper fantastic. However, if you made it all the way to the end of this chunker of a review, please leave the battle of... Well, no, that's way too long. Leave twin slayers in the comment section down below. Oh, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as little as $1 a month. Get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member of the channel for as little as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks include the live reaction to this very chapter, along with an ad-free variation of this chunker of a video. But now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dago the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members for Connor Plays, Red Wolf 4765, Greyhound, and Atkins Void. I'd like to give another thank you to our $5 patrons Victor, Sean, RNG Master, Midnight Gemlord, Metal Solid Crisis, Kevin, Igneal, Endemics LND. And I'd like to give another thank you to our $7 member, Autumn's Morning Lazo. And I'd like to give another thank you to our $7 member, Autumn's Morning Lazo. And I'd like to give another chunk of thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, Idemokami, and China Doll 09. And I'd like to give a fat, juicy, scrumdiddlyumptious thank you to our wonderful $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give another hefty, defty, trifty, nifty thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.